You've obviously built a remarkable personal brand as well as the overall organisational brand over the last period of years. How important do you feel it is for professionals generally to be thinking about their personal brand?
I think that if you're a lawyer or an accountant or a management consultant or anyone in the professional service world, it must be, and I am a fee earner, but I'm not a lawyer, so I'm kind of not, I'm in it, but I'm not in it in that way. I think it must be one of the hardest things to have to promote yourself. I do, even though you may find that a strange thing for me to say. You talk about a personal brand that I might have built. I haven't set out to do that. All I've done is what I think is right, and then been able to articulate what I'm doing. So I'm not really sure I've set out to do it, but then I always say the same thing, slightly, I mean, not quite the same thing, but I'm consistent about what it is that I believe in. The reason I mention that is not because it's about me, it's not about me at all. The point about personal brands are, you have to stand for something. You can't stand for something you don't believe in. You can't stand for something which doesn't stack up, which is irrelevant and uninteresting and unengaging. So for every young lawyer and accountant and whatever else, they have to work out at some point quite fast what it is that they do and why they're doing it. And then they have to be they have to depersonalize and go, it's not me, I'm now just, I'm going to have to talk about myself in a way which is couched in a beneficial way for all my clients. So if you can flip it and not feel weird and icky about it, because I'm sure that most people do, I would feel icky about saying, this is why you should hire me, Elliot Moss. It would be a very strange thing to do. They need to do that, but be comforted by the fact that if they can then articulate where they live in their practice area and where they live in a firm, and that's the power of a marketing umbrella, a marketing position, whatever you want to call it, they can then do their job and kind of go, right, well, the reason why you should use me is, here's my expertise, here's what makes me different, here's what you're going to get from me, here are my promises to you. So it's critical, but you need to find confidence from the bits around you that give we all need comfort to do stuff that we find awkward, but get over the hump, because the sooner you get comfortable about talking about what you bring and not feeling strange, the quicker you'll grow your practice.
So I mean, you've almost answered the question already. Have you got a particular, and I'm guessing from what you've said that you don't have a specific mission for your personal brand as such.
No.
Is it something that's just evolved over time, and now you just, as you say, you've got that clarity that you know who you are, where you sit, what it is that you bring that perhaps other people wouldn't? So is that something that's evolved very organically rather than you setting out to say, this is what I'm going to become in X number of years?
I think you'll need a plan of sorts, but I don't have prescriptively written in the top drawer at home next to my bed the Elliot Moss world domination plan, or at least I'm not going to tell you if I had one, but I don't have one. I think what's important is that you enjoy what you do, and that if you have the courage of your convictions to do stuff, then you've got to be comfortable talking about it, I guess. I mean, I haven't really, truthfully, I haven't been asked that question before, because I've never sought to build a brand for myself. All I know is that obviously what's happened is the things I've done with the firm here and with the team have elicited some interest, because they're different and they're predicated on things that I was taught in the world of brand, which is that you need a positioning, you need to bring it to life creatively, you need all sorts of platforms to do it, and you need to be bold and not really care what people think, as long as you think it's the right thing. You've got to keep it simple, you've got to crystallize your thoughts. I suppose that as you get older, you get more confident in yourself as well, and probably 10 years ago in my mid-30s, I wasn't maybe as confident in my own beliefs. So there's a kind of a perfect fusion. And people say, you know, I was reading the Times this morning, and Cesc Fabregas, one of my favourite ex-Arsenal players, said that he's now playing the best football of his life. Well, he may or may not be, that's just how he perceives it, but he's a bit older, he's a bit wiser, he's been in World Cups, European Championships, played for Arsenal, played for Barcelona, he's just got a bit more on him now, he knows what he's doing. I think it's a natural function of all of us growing up, that we feel a bit more comfortable in our skin, and the truth is I know what I am, and I also know what I'm not. So I think that comes with, for anyone who wants to create a personal brand, know that that confidence will come, and that set of conviction will come, because you've done stuff that worked. 20 years ago, I may have had exactly the same ideas and the same creativity, but I had no experience. So I was the young kid in the room. Now, it's different. So I think that's just a passage of time, but I haven't just sat there and let it happen. I've been really clear about what I want to achieve for the firm and for the business I've worked in. I've only worked with 3 companies in the 20 years, and sort of still work with at least the second one I'm still in touch with the first. So it's really the personal brand has been, I've always felt self-employed. If there's anything, I've always believed that my next hour is as important as anything else. I never sit back and look and go, what did I do? I can't remember yesterday, let alone last year or the year before. I'm constantly going, how are we going to make this better? And I think that's my genuine personal brand. If that's driven a reputation and that's driven a profile, well, that's because I've done something. It's not because I set out to build a personal brand. It's because I've set out to do interesting things which will help any client I've ever worked with grow their business.
Yeah.
Sorry if that's a waffly answer.
No, not at all, not at all. It strikes me, and I think this comes back to things you've already talked about in terms of people being authentic and finding something they're really interested in. It strikes me that very often the people who build the most successful personal brands, whether it's intentional or otherwise, are those who almost sit at the intersection of two worlds. Yes, they have a technical speciality, but they also have a burning passion for something else. Now, it might be business in your case, it could be technology in another case, it could be the environment and energy in another case. But it's the fusion of those two worlds that allow them to take this technical speciality and deliver it with real conviction and passion. Would you agree with that, and do you think that can be applied to any area, any kind of sector within law?
I totally agree with that. I think it is about intersections and it's about bridges. I think the best people are really passionate about something and then they combine that with a craft skill. I'm genuinely passionate about the law. And it may sound a strange thing. I think that's been a big part of the credibility that maybe I've got, is because I'm really interested in learning about what it's about where the rule of law sits, about what an injunction is, about what a beddoes application is. And I'm not going to bore you with all the things I may or may not have learned, because it's a half-armed non-lawyer talking about the law is a dangerous beast. But I really am interested, and if I don't understand, I ask. And I also happen to have an expertise in communications and developing business. So I suppose your thesis is correct. And I am completely passionate about business, always have been, and completely passionate about making it easy for people to understand what business is about. And I've had that forever, and that isn't made up. And I think if people can find their own thing and work out the intersection, they'll do fantastically, or as well as they can do, whatever that means.
Great. And finally then, how have you used different forms of media, both kind of new and traditional, to promote this brand? And again, it may or may not have
this
been,
brand as in the personal brand?
Your personal brand.
Okay.
And again, it may not have been a conscious decision at the time. And is there any particular channel that you would encourage professionals looking to develop those personal brands to explore?
So I think the most important thing before you decide which channels is what you're going to say, what your content is. And then the second part is not just what channel you're going to be on, but where's it going to. So to me, I've always gone, am I clear on what I want to say? If I don't like the questions I'm going to be asked, I'm not going to do it, in the sense that if they're not if the bag is empty, if people are talking about M&A in Europe, I'm going to go, well, I'm going to find someone who's a real expert in that. Occasionally I get roped into doing things I'm not completely confident about, but I get prepped very heavily. I don't think there's channels change the whole time. I think film is really important because it's engaging and quick. I think writing a good article is important. I think sending an interesting tweet is important. I think having a LinkedIn page, which is relatively good, is okay. All these things, Instagram if you're into the photographic side of things, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Pinterest if you're a designer. I mean, really, there'll be a new one tomorrow. The truth is, be conscious of what's available and don't be scared to use it, because once you get over the hump of what is it? I remember sending my first tweet a few years ago. I had to be shown. That was 4 years ago, and that's fine. I love learning. As long as you're interested in the world of communications, then frankly the most important thing is the content. So I would encourage any professional service person to think hard about their content firstly, and secondly, be guided by people that may or may not know. It's very hard to do the wrong thing if your content's good, because as long as you're clear on your message, it doesn't matter if it pops up in all sorts of forms. I've never felt bad about being misquoted in an article. I speak very openly with journalists because I think that's the better way to do it. And I really respect what they do, so I think it's just honesty is easier. Just play a straight bat. If you play a straight bat, then you shouldn't be uncomfortable with any platform anyway.